All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to On the Break. We got another episode for you guys, breaking down more of this playoff action, this good playoff action. Trevor, the beam has been lit in Sacramento for the
Yeah.
first time in about 16, 17 years, man. So, what did you take away from what was a really good primetime game?
No, that was a very exciting game. I didn't want the beam to be lit last night during the game or after the game. I wanted the Warriors to win, but um, I think it was a great game, man. And my takeaways were the Kings. A lot of people talked about the Kings being inexperienced and them expecting the Kings to kind of not play as well as they have over the course of the regular season in the playoffs. They felt like there was gonna be some sort of drop off, especially going up against the reigning NBA champions. But my thing was the Kings did not look inexperienced. They looked like they have over the course of the regular season. They've looked like a top three team in the West, especially down the stretch of the game. Uh, in particular, De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk. I think they have or they played very well down the stretch of the game, getting into the paint of the deep and into the paint, breaking down the defense, making plays, and having that kind of Kentucky connection that they did back in the day.
Bringing back
It looked
memories.
very similar to that, but
Bringing back memories.
yeah, most definitely. But that was my big takeaway. And De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, and the Sacramento King, this is what they've been doing over the course of the regular season. It is not anything new. If this is if this was the first time people have saw them play, this is what they've been doing. And it's the reason why De'Aaron Fox made his first All-Star game. And they played great. That was a big takeaway for me. I think the Warriors played well too. Uh, in particular, I think a lot of people were looking to see how Andrew Wiggins played, and
Mhm.
with him coming back and getting kind of pushed into the playoffs after missing a lot of time. And also Gary Payton, I think he played very well. He's been coming off an injury and then having to come back. So I think they played well. I just think that down the stretch, Andrew Wiggins may have not been his legs might not have been under him. I think he missed a few shots that he usually makes. Some especially guarding like Malik Monk or De'Aaron Fox, he allowed them to get dribble drives into the paint, which he usually doesn't do. But I think that's just because he's trying to get his game in-game win back and get his game legs back. So I think that's something to watch for over the course of um, the series. I think the Warriors did very well offensively, but I think that they can take advantage of how the Kings are playing defense. The Warriors hit a lot of tough shots, and the Kings. A lot of people have been talking about their defense. I think they did very well on the perimeter guarding and getting contests. Their paint defense was not as good. The Warriors could get in the paint and finish very well. So I think that's something that you can watch for. The Warriors might attack the paint a little more next game. But overall, I think it was a good game. And some one thing I did think the Warriors failed to do, and you mentioned this in the last video about the Knicks and the Cavs. The Warriors gave up a lot of offensive rebounds, and they, especially timely offensive rebounds, allowing the Kings to get second possessions and get second chance points. I think the Kings had like 17 offensive rebounds or something like that. The Warriors only had 9 offensive rebounds, so I think that was a big advantage that the Kings had. So those were kind of my takeaways over that game.
Yeah. Once again, great atmosphere. I love arenas that are like that, man. That was and they've been like that all year. But yeah, you could just immediately see the importance of Wiggins and Peyton coming back. It just makes the Warriors so much bigger, athletic. It gives experience, just some extra confidence that you can have guys out there that you trust. Um, I thought it was very key, and how you said how the Kings were playing them. I feel like they could take advantage. The Warriors can take advantage of how the Kings were playing them. And I don't think I mentioned in our last video about how defensively there's not many defenders on the Kings that you probably could put out there because of what they lack on offense. But this really isn't a bad matchup for them after watching that game because the Warriors don't really have a downhill threat like that. The Kings have De'Aaron Fox, but you think of other people like Ja, LeBron, people like that who really force to get downhill and force you to help. So the Warriors don't really have that. A lot of their stuff is off-ball screening actions, curls, continuous movement. De'Aaron Fox spoke to that in the post game, talking about I don't know if you've seen the J.R. Smith clip when he was on JJ Redick's podcast talking about that finals where Dellavedova had the
Yeah,
guard. And De'Aaron Fox said, "Yeah, that clip is real because
yeah,
I noticed that they put him on Steph,
yep.
uh,
I saw that too.
which
Yeah,
was pretty smart. I really think their whole defensive scheme was pretty smart. They put him on Steph because De'Aaron is quick. Obviously, you may give up some stamina with him offensively because of how much he does for their offense, but his ability to stay with Steph is something important. Steph is still going to do what he does. He had 30 points. They also put Harrison Barnes on Draymond Green, which I think is smart because Draymond is pretty much their playmaker. Um, and putting a long person like that on their playmaker can take away vision, and that can disrupt the offense. Even though Draymond still did a good job, he was really great on back cuts, especially. He had double-digit assists. But a thing for the Warriors, the first play of the game, Steph had a turnover. I mentioned turnovers and how that the Kings can capitalize on that. And they had, as a team, they had three in the first quarter. And I mentioned last video they can be careless, and I wanted to go back and correct it and just say that it's within the flow of the offense because of how much they move. Stuff like that'll happen. A lot of their stuff is kind of reactionary as far as like a backdoor cut. As a player, sometimes you see a guy setting up, you think he's going to go backdoor, but he comes to the ball and you throw that pass, it goes out of bounds, stuff like that. But these turnovers were really careless, like
yeah.
very careless, just throwing it
Unforced.
unforced, just throwing it across the court. They have to tighten up on that. And I felt like they had a pretty good defensive scheme. And I think a key, Sabonis had a pretty bad game. I think the key to that was at the beginning they were conceding jumpers to him, allowing him to miss those. I don't know if that messed up with his confidence because he hasn't necessarily been in a lot of big playoff games. They did a good job of walling him up. Draymond did a good individual job. Looney did a really good individual job. I feel like they'll be able to continue to go small because after Sabonis, they don't really have a very talented scoring big. They did a good job of pushing the pace off of the Kings miss. You saw Clay get out on the fast break, get a layup. Jordan Poole got out. And like I said, you could just immediately see the impact of Wiggins and Gary Payton. They did what I expected. They put GP2 on De'Aaron Fox. And I think, I think, uh, I'm not surprised by the Kings getting game one. It's a lot of built up energy. They did look a little nervous kind of at the beginning. There was a stretch where they were down. But it kind of reminds me when the Celtics won that game one last year. I just can't help but feel that as the game goes on, the experience will begin to show. Um,
Hmm.
how are adjustments going to happen? How are the Kings going to react to adjustments? I believe Mike Brown will do a really good job because he's been a head coach for a long time,
He's
even
the
before.
Yeah, he's the coach of the year this year, in my
Definitely,
opinion.
yeah, definitely coach of the year. So adjustments will. I feel like experience won't begin to show until one we go back to Golden State, and then we come back here and run that 4 or 5 game range.
Mhm.
But the Kings, like I said, they on defense, they're aggressively chasing over the top. Like you said, I feel like the Warriors could take more advantage of getting to the basket. They did a pretty good job with back cuts, which again, how I said, Draymond got a lot of his assists. Um, I feel like they did a smart move by putting in Monk with De'Aaron Fox. I know um, that's a fourth quarter lineup they do. I think Monk and Fox combined for 28 points in the fourth quarter. Like you said, it bring back them Kentucky days, which
Yeah,
they're just vintage, just great shot making. And I think they're gonna have to do that because guys like Herder and them aren't really great ball handlers. I think that hinders their offense. Um, and speaking of that, a lineup that was really good was Fox, Monk, Herder, Barnes, and Sabonis, which I think they'll be able to go to a lot because there's not a lot of size on the Warriors. And like I said, there's not a true downhill force that's forcing your defense to collapse. So I think they can continue to match up and still do good in this series. But just ultimately, I feel like the Warriors are going to kind of walk them down sometime at the middle of this series. I don't know. That's
yeah,
just a feeling I have.
yeah, and that brings me to what I'm expecting to see down the line because I did mention the Kings that didn't look inexperienced down the stretch of the first game, but my thought is coming away from that game is how are the Warriors going to respond to losing that first game? Because I know they haven't been playing as well this season, especially on the road. But I think they look good, and I think that they're going to make the right adjustments, and they're going to do something similar, like you said, they did in the finals last year of a team that's not as experienced as them in the playoffs against the Boston Celtics. I feel like they're going to do something very similar to the Sacramento Kings. And my other question or my other takeaway is how are the Sacramento Kings going to respond after this whole thing? Because it was a little too much excitement, especially at the end when they did the whole light the beam thing and all that stuff. So I don't think that the Kings are gonna fall flat. I think that they're gonna still play good. It's just
Would it be a drop off?
will there be some sort of a drop off?
And
Is there gonna
you got to do this three more
three
times.
more times? Yeah, it's a series now, So that is something that I am kind of looking to see and see how it plays out over the course of the series. But one other thing you mentioned, I think Draymond Green and Kayvon Looney did a great job guarding Sabonis. I do think Sabonis is gonna try and figure something out. I don't think he's gonna continue to have bad games.
His
So
confidence wasn't there.
yeah, so
You could tell.
we'll see. And I'm expecting Wiggins to come along as the series goes. I think Clay and Steph are going to continue to hit shots and they're going to continue to figure out ways to score. Oh, and Dante DiVincenzo, I think he played great last night in the role he was, hitting shots, playing defense, hustling. I think that's going to be another player that can impact the game in a big way down the course of over the course of the series. So I think this is going to be a really good one, and it's definitely going to be exciting to see how these two really good coaches, make adjustments down the course of over the course of the series and down the stretch of games and things like that. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's funny because we're talking about we feel like the Warriors play good, but Draymond dropped an immediate reaction on his podcast talking about he didn't feel like they played good enough and they were still in the
Yeah.
game. So
Hmm.
you could just tell experience right there. They didn't seem wavered. Even Jordan Poole
Hmm.
walking off the court, he didn't seem worried. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So oh, this is a marathon, not a race. So I just feel like they're gonna figure out a way to they're gonna take the hits, I feel, and once they go home, it's gonna be pretty much the same thing, but on the Warrior side, because they
Yeah.
are really, really, they might be terrible all time bad on the road, but they're really good at home this year. And just
Yeah.
another bit about Wiggins. He did hit some pretty good shots though. He
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 did.
wasn't necessarily on, but he did hit some. So you could tell the rhythm will come, but
Yeah,
outside of that, he did everything you would want him to do outside of the shot making, which I feel like is an even better sign because I feel like that'll help him get into a rhythm, just making
yeah,
good plays overall. But like I said, I just can't. I don't want to be like the Kings fan to get too excited. But
yeah, yeah.
I that was a great game. That was a great game.
Yeah, it was great. But my thing about Wiggins is not that he didn't play well because I think he did, especially
Yeah, I
early.
know.
I just think down the stretch, getting his legs back under him and getting
Definitely.
back in the game shape, that is going to be big because I think he those shots that he missed down the stretch, I think
Mhm.
he actually hits those,
Yeah.
once he gets his legs under him,
Yeah.
and also on the defensive end as well.
It looked like a good sign though. I was getting a
Yeah.
good.
But I do agree with Draymond. I think, like I said, I think the Warriors played well, but I think they can play better. So, you know, we'll see. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.